Welcome to another episode of Coffee College. This is Omid G, the college coffee professor. We're going to talk today about Monsoon Malabar coffee beans, and it's something you're rarely going to see, but it's something I get excited about and I want to tell you all about. First off, let me show you what makes these beans unique. Let me show you what they look like. So here's Monsoon Malabar Arabica. And I don't know if you can tell, but these beans are not green. They're yellow. They're a pale yellow. They're swollen, and they're very smoothed over as compared to regular coffee beans. And again, these are unroasted. Now let me show you Monsoon Malabar Robusta. And these are same thing. They're swollen, they're yellow, they're pale colored. They're more rounded, as Robusta beans are, than the Arabica variety of the same beans. You're going to be hard pressed to find these beans anywhere. Now, let me tell you the story on these beans. You won't find Monsoon or this type of coffee anywhere else. All other coffee beans, with the exception of aged, climate controlled aged beans, which can turn a dark brown, tobacco looking. All other beans pretty much are going to be green when they're unroasted. Now, the story is that in the 1800s, Europe used to get their coffee from India. And India would take the Indians 6 to 9 months to get these rickety wooden ships around the Cape of Good Hope and to get it over to Europe. And most of the coffee was grown in South India there. And what would happen was there was no avoiding the monsoon season. You just couldn't get around it. And so they would go through and the monsoons would hit. Well, these rickety old wooden ships were not watertight. And so moisture would get into the hull. And the unroasted coffee beans would turn from green and small to swell up and become yellow and pale. And something else would happen. The pH would neutralize all the way to zero. Now, Indian coffee beans aren't really known for acidity anyways, for a couple of reasons. One is that they don't have very high elevation, maybe maximum 1,100 meters above sea level. And then also they don't have volcanic soil. And both of those contribute to acidity and vibrancy in the coffee beans. But it would neutralize and would go to a pH of zero. And this coffee was all the Europeans ever knew. And they were drinking this for years and years and years and years. And then when steamships were brought to India, then they started transporting the coffee in steamships. And the steamships were watertight. And so the beans started arriving in Europe, green and small and fresh, and just like unroasted green beans look today. Well, the Europeans weren't used to this. They'd never seen it before, and they wanted no part of it. And they said, we want our monsoon beans back. Stop giving us this green garbage. We want our monsoon beans back. And so the Indians, started pulling their hair out. What do we do? What do we do? How do we give the customers like this defect? And how do we give it to them? And so they would take these unroasted green coffee beans. Now we're talking 125 years ago. And they started spreading them out in warehouses, especially off the coast of Malabar, where there was a lot of exposure to these monsoon winds and rains, which is where the name Monsoon Malabar came from. It's from the monsoon season off the coast of Malabar. And they would spread out these coffee beans in warehouses and open up all the windows during monsoon season. And they would have to, it's a tedious process because you have, as you can imagine, you have to be careful of mold. And so they're constantly raking it, constantly ensuring not just no mold, but consistency, because you don't want some beans getting some moisture, some getting less, and all this kind of stuff. And you want all the beans to taste the same. And so they would keep raking it and keep spreading it out, and they would test the moisture levels and all these things until they were able to replicate that process. And 125 years later, they're still doing that today. Now, what does Monsoon Malabar taste like, and why should you care? So the first thing I'll just mention is for those people who have stomach acid issues, who say, I cannot drink coffee Well, this is the answer to that problem, because the pH, as I think I mentioned, is exactly zero on these coffee beans, exactly zero. And so there's absolutely no issues in that regards. Now, you can have Monsoon Malabar coffee any way you like, but in my opinion, they should only be consumed in one way, and that's espresso. Some people characterize the taste of Monsoon Malabar as funky, as mushroom-like tasting. I think that would only come about if you did it in pour over or filter or cold brew or something like that. But in espresso, Monsoon Malabar is majestic. It's, I don't know any other word to explain it. And I like it as, I would never do 100% straight Monsoon Malabar, but up to 70% worked into a blend. It's just majestic. And why is it majestic? The crema that you get and you pull in espresso is out of control. It's out of control crema. Meaning, and you see I got a little monkey here in the background, um, meaning it's so thick, it's so rich, it glops out of the espresso machine. It's a thing of beauty. It's worth pulling a shot just to watch the shot get extracted, even if you're not going to drink it. But when you blend it in with something, now you can take Monsoon Malabar different ways. You can take it and blend it with a sweet bean and get it very sweet and creamy, or you can take it the other direction and you can mix it with things that are very earthy and peaty, like Indonesian wet hulled beans and maybe some Brazilian beans and things like that. It goes any place you want to take it in espresso. You decide if you like light and sweet or dark and peaty or anywhere in the middle. Monsoon Malabar will go with you. It's the friend that will go any place you want to go. They're down with it, and that's what Monsoon Malabar is. It's in my opinion delicious. It has zero characteristics of mushroom or funkiness or any of those things when consumed in espresso. It has the highest sugar content of any coffee bean there is. And so all the way around, I think Monsoon Malabar is an incredible product. I don't like to take it terribly dark because it can start getting spotting, which means, the oil spots all over it. And I don't care for that. Beans go rancid quickly. Some people like to open a bag of beans and have them be oily. I don't find personally any value in that because they go bad really fast. They go rancid really fast. It gunks up your grinder. There's going to be oils in coffee. I like them to be in the bean itself, not on the surface. And so, anyways, that's what you have with Monsoon Malabar coffee. And surprisingly, the Robusta is incredibly smooth. I can put up to 30% of a blend being Monsoon Malabar Robusta, and it can be a sweet, creamy blend. Which is hard to do with Robusta because Robusta usually a little bit gets in the way if you're trying to do a sweet blend. But this doesn't. Like I said, whatever direction you want to take it. And I should add that Monsoon Malabar Robusta is getting almost impossible to find. The Arabica is, at least from a roasting perspective, I can get it. But the Robusta is starting to become harder and harder to get a hold of. One thing you need to know is there's a lot of variations in quality. So you can't just take any old bean and do a Monsoon Malabar process to it. It has to be a high quality, well sorted, consistent screen size, which means that the beans are all roughly the same size across the board. And not all of the Monsoon Malabar producers are doing that. And so you want to make sure that you're getting a high quality bean. They should be really large. Once they're roasted, these are some of the largest beans you'll get. So that's, I think, about it on the Monsoon Malabar. It's, to me, one of the most underrated coffees out there. It's just delicious. You don't have to have stomach acid issues to drink it. I wouldn't really recommend it for any method other than espresso. But for espresso, like I said, it's majestic. It just doesn't, in my opinion, it's a highly underrated, doesn't get any better. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Coffee College. If you like this, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. We shall. This is Omid G, the coffee professor, and we shall see you on the next episode of Coffee College.